Welcome, welcome, welcome. I want to introduce you to Leeann Medina-Martinez. She is a board member for soundbusiness.org. I'm so happy to have her on here. Currently licensed social worker in New York State, employed with Cancer Care as an oncology social worker. Leeann is also a graduate of A. Philip Randolph Campus High School of class of 2007, then went on to CUNY City College, where she got her BA in sociology in 2011. She's worked with a couple of organizations in the realm of social services and case management. After a couple of years of working, she earned a master's degree at the Silverman School of Social Work at Hunter College and graduated in 2018. Upon graduating, she applied for licensure in her field in New York State and is currently working towards another license within her field. She's currently on the board of SBI. She helps out a lot. I appreciate you joining us. Thank you so much for being on with me, Leeann.
Man, thank you for having me.
So let's jump right in. Tell us about what you're doing right now. I was just reading a beautiful article the other day that you did for Cancer Care, right? I know that you're, from what you've told me, working especially during the pandemic, the bilingual track, helping out folks in Spanish and English. Talk to us about everything that you're doing, and then if you'll follow that up, if you will, with what you want folks to take away from this interview today.
Oh, sure. So currently I am an oncology social worker at Cancer Care. I do provide services in English and Spanish. Our services consist of support, whether it be individual, group. I work with patients who have been diagnosed with cancer, people that are helping care for them, that we consider caregivers. And then I also work with the bereaved, anyone that has lost a loved one to cancer. A lot of my work deals a lot with anxiety and the unknown. So especially during this time of the pandemic, we've continued to work. Anxiety has been at an all-time high, and just with everything that's going on in the world, these things just come in. You have a cancer diagnosis, it turns your world upside down. And then, we got to also add in external factors. So I'm definitely just trying to help out as much as possible with everyone that I work with in English and in Spanish. They both bring their own sets of challenges, and it's been a very rewarding experience for me. I enjoy every step of the way. There are days where they are really difficult, physically and emotionally, but it's work that I truly enjoy. And then as far as what I'm working on, I'm definitely focused a lot on that bilingual piece. I'm working towards, providing services in English and in Spanish. We do have a large Spanish-speaking population in New York, and just trying to get the word out and the support out to other people, that there are organizations that are able to help. And Cancer Care is a nonprofit, but we definitely do cover a large amount of states. We do all 50 states, and also we do a lot of work in the city and in the tri-state area. And as far as the takeaway for today, what I would like for everyone watching is to kind of just keep in mind that I think that opportunities are often presented to us, and sometimes we don't know what to do with them. But I think that it's important that you take every opportunity that you get, take advantage of them, and also just, put all your energy into it, put your best foot forward. And then I also want everyone to know that, working towards, your goals can change. It can change from where you started. You might have one idea now, and then afterwards it just completely changes regardless of whatever life circumstance comes up. So you just kind of roll with it.
And I really want to get into your story of the Randolph experience and everything, but I also, because you're a fellow board member and I appreciate your work and, anybody that really is coming back and participating and contributing to the program that I've been involved with for the last 24 years. But why are you a board member, and what do you get out of that experience?
So as far as being a board member, I've never been on a board of anything before. So this is a first, brand new experience for me, which is helpful. Like I said, I work at a nonprofit. There's a board there too. There's a board of people there. I'm not involved in that board, but there's boards in a lot of these companies, a lot of these programs that we don't even know about. And it's almost unknown unless you're in it, and unless you're trying to get yourself in some kind of way of helping, getting yourself in a position of helping others. And then the reason that I was on board with being on the board, just because SBI helped me a lot during the years that I was in Randolph, and even afterwards, like a lot of the things that I learned while I was there, which I can talk about more later, I use now. There are things that I use now that I share with other people, and it just helped me so much. It was so important while I was in high school. You know, I was the first one from my household to be in high school, finish high school, go to college. So there were a lot of things that were unknown to me. And then, you know, my mother was an immigrant when she came here. So, you know, there was the language barrier. My mom didn't know English. I learned English in school. Spanish was my first language
What's
at
your family's
home.
background?
So my mom came from Dominican Republic, and so did my dad. They had separate journeys. They met actually here in the city. But my mom left Dominican Republic in her teens and did some of her young adult years in Puerto Rico, and then came to the city.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
And they're still around? You around them, or?
Yeah, so my mom is still here. My dad is not. My dad is back in the Dominican Republic. But my mom is still here. She lives not too far from me. We live pretty close. I speak to her and I see her pretty regularly.
And where do you live?
So I live in the Inwood area of Manhattan. Yeah.
Did you live there when you were in junior high as well?
No, I lived in Harlem.
You lived in Harlem.
I lived in Harlem. Yep. My mom still lives in Harlem. I lived in Harlem. I actually went to junior high school up in this area.
Okay.
Yeah, my mom worked really hard to make sure that I didn't go to the local school that I was zoned to. So at that point in time, you were able to like shop around and be able to get your kids in different areas if you felt that they were better, if you weren't going to a specialized school. So my mom pulled some strings, and then I was up in the school in Inwood, which no longer exists now.
Really? Okay. And then, so what was the name of that school since it no longer exists?
It was PSIS 176, and it was in the same building. The building was called the W. Haywood Burns building, which is still there. And then there was another school in the building named Muscota. And now I think that they've turned it to like a whole bunch of other different little schools in there. But it's right on Broadway between 204 and Academy.
Okay. And how did you end up at Randolph? So you were at this Inwood school, coming from Harlem. How did Randolph end up on the radar for you and your mother? And how did you guys choose that as the school that you were going to go to?
So my mom was really into the specialized school thing, like from junior high school and also for high school. And then at that point in time, you had to take an exam to get into Randolph. So we went around, we shopped at different schools. I took the specialized high school exam. I didn't pass that. But I did get my chance at Randolph. So my mom was okay with that. Like, she had done her research. She liked that it was on the campus of City College. She liked everything that they had to offer. She went to like their meetings and like the orientation they have for parents. And she was okay with it. Plus, I went there with like one friend from junior high school. We were the two that chose to go to this school.
Who's your friend that rode through high school with you?
Her name was Tiffany. It was Tiffany Pena.
Okay, Tiffany Pena. All right, so talk to us about this. So, you guys chose Randolph. So what was your first experience, like first time going into the building? What was the initial feelings as you were a freshman coming into high school, and kind of walk us through freshman year and what you were experiencing?
All right, freshman year. I don't remember that far back. It's been a couple of years. I remember
What are your first memories of Randolph?
I mean, I remember it being this huge building to me. Like, it was just huge, and like it looks like a castle. And then just looking at like the architecture inside the auditorium, that was the first place that I went into, like after entering the building. So just seeing all of that, I was like surprised. Seeing the large number of students, that was also like a big thing. Randolph had larger classes after mine, but that one was pretty big for me. When I was in middle school, there were literally only 3 8th grade classes when we graduated. So to come into Randolph and to see all these people, I remember the hallways looked so big to me, the lockers. There was definitely a lot of people around that I wasn't used to. But it was also exciting. Like within that fear, I was very excited to be in high school and trying to conquer the next 4 years that were coming. And I mean, freshman year, I just went to classes. I really didn't talk to anyone. I only talked to people that were in my classes, and then I started like socializing, I would say, with more people. I was open to like introductions just to learn like the lay of the land, you know, what was there, what was around, who I should be talking to, and who could help me. Because I wanted to make sure that the 4 years that I was spending there were fruitful, that I wasn't going to be like left behind or stuck.
What kind of student were you? What were your favorite classes?
So at that point in Randolph, I don't know if they still have it, but we had like houses. So I was in the engineering house. I went in as an engineering student. But like the first year they gave, you know, your basic, your math, your English, art classes. And then there was like the engineering class. Took engineering classes for like 3 years, I believe, straight. From freshman to junior year, we were taking engineering classes. I was a pretty good student. I had pretty good grades. Pretty much in the 80s most of the time. And I enjoyed my engineering classes. As a matter of fact, I swore that I was going to be a computer engineer at that point in time.
That would have been interesting for you.
It really would have. And then I enjoyed it while I was there. I loved the networking classes that they provided. To this day, I still make my own Ethernet cables that I learned.
Really?
I learned how to do it in Randolph. Yes.
So I know who to call now.
You can definitely call me. Yes. Like I learned how to do it in Randolph. Mr.
So
Rogers.
I mean, are you designed, like, do you put together your own components for computers and that sort of thing as well, or no?
I don't do it. It's been too many years have passed since I've done it, so you kind of forget it. You know, like anything, if you don't use it, you kind of forget it.
Yeah.
Skills, right? So I leave most.
And I know you're busy
husband.
lately, so you're probably not just doing hobby projects with computers.
No, my husband is into them. My husband is in IT, so he does it for me. So I get to like leave it alone. I still make the cables for him though.
That's very cool. So where is he working? What does he do?
So he works at IT at Columbia University, tied in with Presbyterian over here on 168.
What's his name?
So his name is Leeann Medina-Martinez. He's a Randolph alumni as well. He was class of 2008.
All right, so you know who we need to get in for the next interview. All right, tell Yorkis, put a word in. Let's get it done. So you're in Randolph. You're doing some of this like the computer stuff. So what? I'm assuming you moved over to the medical track at some point.
Nope,
never.
Nope, graduated with the engineering seal from Randolph.
Really? Okay. Oh, that's very cool. That's very interesting. So, talk to us about your junior and senior year, and you were involved in SBI. So how did you get involved with SBI?
You know, I don't even remember how I got involved in SBI. I feel like it was at some assembly that there was like a call out, like, you know, like if people getting involved. And also it was about CCPI. It was about, you know, doing the career prep. That's how I started. I participated in the career prep.
You didn't get dragged in the performing arts route or tech crew or any of that, right?
I did. I did. I started out as an usher. I was definitely an usher, and then I went into the tech crew.
Right.
Yeah, so I was managing the stage lights, and I was also a stage manager at one point. And then there was an audio crew, and then the lights crew. And then
it's interesting in your story. The first thing that appealed to you was the college and career prep, not the other way around. Not like, oh, I want to be a part of the tech crew, or I want to be on a dance team, and because that's usually the way people get sucked in, which is purposeful. We understand like students want to do fun stuff, so we get the fun stuff, and then we try to bring the college and career prep in. But you took the college, which, you know, there's a fair amount of students that are like, oh yeah, I care about my college and career, which is good. We like that route too, right?
Right.
So you cared about that, and then you got involved with the other stuff. That's cool.
I did. Listen, performing was like not my biggest thing. I wasn't trying to be in any of the dance groups. I loved watching them. That's what kept me there. Like I loved watching them. I loved watching them perform, all of them. I just knew that I couldn't get on stage and do that. So I did the behind the scenes stuff. That stuff I enjoyed.
I'm sure you could perform too. I'm sure.
All right. I had a brief stint in the drama club in Randolph, so I did have to perform and do stage stuff at the same time.
Oh, wow.
So that was
Which
interesting.
show was that?
We used to do it for like small like presentations, like when we had outsiders coming in to visit, and we did it for the May showcase. And it was a Spanish drama. It was the Spanish Drama Club. This was like
What year was that? Do you have video from that?
I don't. I know someone does. I don't have it. I wish I
It's
did.
interesting because, I have some videos from some years because there was like some years that I was more active than others and I was doing video. Some years I wasn't doing video. And so I have certain years. And then every time I'm like almost afraid to post something because every time I post something, somebody's like, I want the May show from da-da-da. I'm like,
I don't have it. Yeah, I'm sure that there's video somewhere for it because I believe that it had opened up the May showcase at that point in time, and that was what 2006 maybe.
Yeah,
so anyone has that video in
we got to work on it because I got to get like every single year because then people will be happy that they got their year, and then I can always just be like, here's that video, go to it.
Right.
All right, so talk to us about how you were feeling junior and senior year, and like what was going through your mind in terms of colleges and all that kind of stuff. Talk to us about your journey.
So junior and senior year, I had always worked up my grades. I knew junior year I had to do what I had to do because I knew the grades were important as far as getting into college. And then as like mid, I guess, junior year, there was always a lot of talk about going out of the city, going to, state universities, or even just getting out the state period to go to college. But for me, that wasn't an option. Like it wasn't something that I was able to do. And years later, I thought about it and maybe it would have been good for me to go out. But it just wasn't possible, not at that point in time. So a lot of my applications were for like local schools. I did apply out of state, just like out of curiosity to see if I would get accepted. And I made the ultimate decision to stay in the city. A lot of that had to do with like cultural stuff, family stuff.
Yeah, I was going to ask you what was the reason you felt like you couldn't go out? Because I know we would always push in, and I know, and we've had these conversations, when we went to Thompson's house for a retreat recently, talking about how some students, because we're talking so often about like go out of state, get this different experience. City College, there's a 6% percent of graduation for 4 to 6 year students, which is true because most people are going there pursuing credits for nursing or police or something, just grabbing some credits and going out. So it's interesting that you had that experience, and then we talked about the fact that, so many of our alumni that, do go to CUNY and all that, and then they don't come back to Randolph for whatever reason, maybe because they feel like, SBI doesn't feel like they're an example of what you said. Listen, you get a degree, you got a degree, you got a degree, you got a degree.
That's true, very much so.
Yeah, and that's it's just, in terms of when you're trying to advise people and statistics wise and all that kind of stuff. So tell us about your experience and how you ended up at City College and what that ended up looking like.
Yeah, so with City College, it was kind of an easy kind of choice for me. Like I said, I jumped into like different programs, different things. So while I was in Randolph, I took some courses at City College. I was taking some architecture courses. Remember, I was an engineering student at Randolph. So I went and took these architecture courses at City College. So I got to explore the campus, learn about the campus, and I knew how to get around the campus. Plus, it was close. City College was right behind Randolph. So I knew my commute. And in my mind, I was going to go to City College, and I was going there as an engineering student. I was going to be a computer engineer, and they had a very good program. So that was the best option. Plus, I was able to go there for free. I had a full ride to go to City College, and that was a big thing. My mom was a single mom raising me. She didn't have that kind of income. The kind of jobs that she worked wouldn't allow for her to even save any kind of money for me to go ahead and go to school far away. And there were absolutely a lot of programs. There were a lot of scholarships, but there was no guarantee of getting a full ride for all those years,
right.
The 4 years. So that wasn't a risk that I was willing to take. And that wasn't a risk that my mother wanted me to take. And then at that point in time, I had to listen to whatever my mom says. So I decided that City College would be okay. Like that would be, it had a good program for what I was going for. I already knew it. I knew how to get around. So it was kind of just an easy decision. And then a couple of friends of mine ended up joining me at City College afterwards too, which worked out.
So which folks did you continue on with in City College from Randolph?
So when I went to City College, like 2 years later, my friend Suleika Almanzar joined me. She had gone away and then came back. And then Alcides Marte, he joined me in City College as well. So like till this day, we're still friends. So I have long lasting friendships. So people that I was like really close with in high school, like we're still friends. And some of us went to City College. Other than I have three other friends actually that didn't go away either and ended up going to John Jay from Randolph.
Yeah, no, there's a lot of John Jay alumni as well, right?
Yep.
I know at least 4 or 5 offhand. So in terms of, you started at City College on this engineering track. So how did that go and how did that change?
So that didn't go so well. I thought that I could do it, but when I had gotten there, I didn't get accepted right away into the program. I was like in a preliminary kind of like stance of like I needed to pass some courses first in order to get there, and calculus was not my friend. So pretty much because I couldn't pass the calculus class, I just gave up on the field. I just didn't pursue it anymore. And I started to look at what other options I had.
Let me ask you a question. In terms of like that with the calculus and everything, was there, like looking back on it, was there resources that were there at the college that could have helped you through that?
There were resources, like there were tutoring services and there were people around. And then obviously it's college, you have to go look for it. Like no one was going to come and tell you, hey, you should go here or not. I had taken calculus. I had taken pre-calculus at Randolph. They had the advanced placement classes and I was in that class. And I had a hard time when I was there too. I did pass. I didn't fail the class, but it wasn't what my other grades were. So when I was faced with it again in college, it was just on a whole other level because now it's a lot faster than what was given to us in high school. And I just felt like there was no way for me to catch up. At that point in time, by the time I realized that I was so far behind that I wasn't going to catch up, and I just felt like it wouldn't be fair to me. And I would just be feeling disappointed at the end of the day if I didn't do it. If I kept going, and then it would just be a disaster.
Yeah, and the reason I ask is because I think, in looking back, we sort of maybe have a little bit more clarity than in the situation is like, is this something that I love and I want to continue to do? It's hard and I need to get support, or is this just something that I just don't want to do? I don't have the interest there, so I'm going to pursue something else. I'm going to pivot. That's the big word these days. But
Right.
I'm going to pivot into something that I enjoy more. That's more in line with my values and my passions and that sort of thing. So I'm wondering if it was that kind of a decision at that point to say, what, I just want to not pursue that because I just don't have the desire to continue learning about it, or that sort of thing.
Yeah, there was definitely part of that, not wanting to probably continue. And I just knew that if I was going to get up in the morning and like be miserable about it, I didn't want to do it. I wanted to make sure that whatever I was going to do, I was going to be okay to get out of bed. I was going to enjoy what I was doing. And that just wasn't it.
That's cool. All right. Yeah, no, that makes a lot of sense. So how did you end up choosing something else?
So I started taking liberal arts courses, and that's where I ended up taking a couple of sociology courses that went like really into depth, and that's when I decided to make it my major. So I had to do an extra semester at the end of my bachelor career in order to like catch up and finish, but it was pretty cool. Decided to do a minor in the process, and I felt that I was always helping people, regardless of the fact like it was just in me, like it's in my nature to just help. People tend to come to me to talk to me about things or just to get an opinion. So I figured, hey, if this is what my life's calling kind of is, then I might as well just take it and run with it.
That's awesome. So talk to us about your approaching senior year. Real life is coming on at City College, and we didn't really talk too much about the City College experience. So I don't know if you want to add a little bit of color in terms of what was going on there, that sort of beyond the classroom experience and the difficulty with calculus and that sort of thing.
Yeah.
What was the experience like? I know you were talking probably to friends that were at John Jay and other places in the city, and maybe even some people that had gone to college abroad. What was going on through your mind during all this time?
So for me, college was good for me. Like, I like the experience of being at City College. The food wasn't bad. You can bring your own food. There was definitely socializing hours, which I really enjoyed. And then all of us used to hang out. Like, it was the NAC building, the North Academic Center. And there was like this wide open space on the second floor. And for 2 hours, 2 days out of the week, that was the hangout time. So they were like people putting on shows, presentations, Greek life. There was all of that going on. And then just like the campus experience of crossing the street, going to different buildings to go do your classes. All of that was important, and it was fun for me. Like, I enjoyed it. I took part in it, and just like compare with other people, they kind of had the same experience. I mean, there were actually people that used to come and hang out during our like hours with us. They will come from other campuses. And just like from other CUNYs and just hang out, just take a break like from everything that was going on, because there weren't any classes going on from that time. From 12 to 2 on those Tuesdays and Thursdays, there was no class, and we just spent our time there. But in terms of like the experience of being in a different school, maybe in a state school or outside of the state, that I feel that I really didn't get while being at City College was that study abroad opportunity. That a lot of people get when they go outside of the city. And I would say that that's probably one of the things that I wish I would have had. Like, I feel like I would have taken that opportunity.
I wish I had that opportunity, but I didn't ever.
It was never there.
Of a full college experience or that opportunity, and I sort of lament. I'm 40. I think my wife just telling me I've been saying I'm 42, but I think I'm actually 41. And I turned 42 in July. So I've never been overseas. I've been down in Mexico, been up to Canada, but never been overseas. And then I hear students that are talking about, having been to different places in their study abroad, and I'm like, so jealous. It's such a wonderful opportunity, and definitely one of the opportunities that young folks should take advantage of. Have you traveled since? Have you gotten an opportunity to travel some places?
I have. Yeah, I have. Just like you mentioned, I've traveled to a lot of islands. I've done like a lot of traveling down to Mexico and the Caribbean islands. Definitely done Canada.
Yeah, I've never been like off of like the North American continent, so no islands, I mean, if you can count like Manhattan as an island, yes, maybe.
Then yes. No, I've done some traveling. I've hit a couple of places. Did Grand Cayman. I've done Mexico for sure. I've done Honduras. I've done cruising, so all the stops, they kind of take you to those places. And then last November, I actually went to London.
Oh, really?
For the first time. Yeah. So that was like my first overseas, like on the other side of the world. That was great. I loved it. It was definitely a great experience. Definitely want to go back. There's definitely places on that side that I would like to.
So if I'm going to London, where should I go? Like, where do I have to go?
Oh, so we were a little bit off from the city. We didn't stay right in the center because it could be pricey. So we were a little bit north. I can't remember the town right now. But I would say stay a little bit outside of the city. You don't want to stay right in the city, and then just take the train.
That's similar to San Francisco. So I have traveled a lot within the United States. I've been to San Francisco a couple of times now, and always stay in Oakland because you can Uber in and out of the city, and still with the cost of the hotel and the price of the Uber going back like 2 different times during the day, still spend less than the hotel room in the middle of the city.
Yeah, so we had like a good time. We stayed a little bit off, but we took the train everywhere that we went because it was cheaper. And it was a quick ride, like no more than maybe 30 minutes, depending on where we were going. But to get right to the center and to get to Piccadilly Circus, which is like their Times Square, just to get there, it was like a 15-minute train ride. And that was switching with 2 trains. And it was really nice. It was a great experience.
What was your favorite part of the trip?
My favorite part of the trip? Oh, we did this tea time on this double-decker bus.
Oh, wow.
That was my favorite part. It was raining that day. But it was so nice. They had like lights around inside the bus, like the string lights.
Yeah.
They just set the ambiance. It was really nice. And then you can pay to have like champagne, which we did, and then all the little, pastries that they brought out, they were delicious.
It sounds like a calm club in a bus.
Yes, I mean, afterwards you get out and you go to all the bars that are around.
Oh, okay.
So like those were always there and available, and definitely have a lot of beers for you to try. So that was definitely fun.
All right, so talk to us about you're a senior in college, and real life is coming. So what are you thinking about, and what's your next move?
So while I was in school, I was always working. So for me, it was just more of like, well, where am I going to next? Like, what's the next organization? Where am I going to get more responsibilities? Where am I going to grow? So I worked a lot of part-times while I was in school. There were times where I was working 2 part-times, and like I could be tutoring and then like being like an assistant at a daycare at the same time.
Oh, wow.
And just because I just needed to generate like that extra income. And then I did a couple of retail jobs from there. But once I was, senior year finishing already in City College, I moved right on into family services within a daycare setting, because I was already familiar with that. Having worked in the daycares before, I had done community service in daycares before. That goes into my junior high school years, where we had to do community service in order to graduate. Mm. So I had done community service in daycare. So it was kind of like a natural next step and like progression for me. And there, like I was being supervised by a social worker, and we just, were working with families and their children and just helping them. My job was like to know if there were like any barriers that they had, if they needed resources, sit in on meetings between parents and teachers, help address certain things with their children, and like provide any kind of intervention that I could. So I was definitely like putting my skills to use. Right after I finished City College, I went straight there, and I was there for about 3 years. And then I moved from that job and totally changed the realm. I stopped working with children and their families.
From 2011, let's say, until 2014, you were working with the kids?
2014, 2015, just about, 2014. Yes, because then after that I started, let's see, that was 2011. It was the end of 2011. So 2012 to about 2015. I started that job in 2012. So from 2012 to about 2015. Okay. Then in 2015, I switched, and I was now working with Visiting Nurse Service of New York in their, it was their health and mental health. It was community mental health. So I was working as a case manager there. The job title was a comprehensive care manager, but my job there was working with adults who were currently in the public welfare system. So they were getting public assistance. And then they also had substance use that was part of their lives, and along with other things, there's always kind of like other health conditions and homelessness to take into account. So I worked with that population for 2 years, almost 3.
And did you enjoy the work?
It was hard work.
Yeah.
It was hard work. But I did enjoy it. I was out in the field a lot. I was considered an essential employee. So I was out whenever like there were like snowstorms and things like that. I still needed to come out, and I needed to check up on my clients, people that were on my caseload, especially the ones that were homeless, making sure that they were somewhere safe while like, the storms were passing, and then just trying to help them navigate, trying to understand, trying to remind them of things, because being in the system, getting public assistance, trying to find your own place if they were living in the shelter. Some people opted to live in the street as opposed to the shelter. So finding them sometimes was a challenge. And even just, but it was good work, just like hearing their stories, hearing their experience. You know, there were people from all walks of life that I encountered, but it was like very, very educational for me because it was challenging, because it was hard work, and you had to have tough skin.
Yeah, I would imagine some days were very rewarding. And then I always talk about this with anybody that's in any kind of, social work kind of line. It'd be very difficult for me because I'm very much like solution oriented. I want to, get a problem,
Solve
it, move on.
Mm-hmm.
And that's just not the way people generally work. There's a lot, especially when you're dealing with that community, there's ongoing issues, challenges, both on the health side and on the family side and on the interrelational side, that, very difficult for somebody, even with the best intentions, to control or do anything about.
Yep.
So I commend you. It's not easy work. How did the pursuit of higher education come into the picture there?
Oh, it was there working at that job. Working at that job, it made me realize that I needed to go ahead and pursue my education. I needed to move further with it. One would be definitely the money. In order to like move up, certain credentials are needed in certain places. And that was part of it. Like, in order for me to move on and do something else, I needed that. I needed to have a master's degree. A bachelor's wasn't cutting it anymore. And I just went for it. Like, I had the opportunity while I was there to go ahead and work and be able to do my internship right then and there within the same organization. So I was very grateful for that, and I just took advantage of that. I had waited.
Let me ask you a question in that, because I think there's a lot of people that are questioning, like, man, this whole thing's sort of like, they run game on you, just more education. Yes, you make more money, but you got to pay into this and the time. Do you feel like the education benefited your work ability, your ability to provide results for the folks that you will work with?
I feel like it does. It did. It was worth it. And I was just going to say that, like, I postponed it a lot, and it was because of the money. I was like hell-bent on, should I do this? Should I take out a loan? It would be the first time taking out a school loan, because when I got my bachelor's, I didn't have to do that. So I was like, should I do this? Should I not? And then, certain jobs also provide tuition reimbursement. And my organization provided that. So that was the motivator for me.
Fantastic. Yeah.
To go ahead and do it. I mean, I didn't take advantage of it afterwards because I didn't stay in the organization long enough.
Okay.
But it that definitely did help.
I imagine that was a big decision for you.
It was, but it was a necessary one. It was definitely a necessary one. And at this point in time, like, the education that I got while I was in school definitely helped me being the person that I am today, the clinician that I am today. The practical things that, that were discussed, the skills that I learned while getting my education, while getting my master's degree, it was worth it. It was worth the money for me.
Can we talk about confidence level for a second? How did that help? Was your confidence increased by doing the master's?
Yes, absolutely. I felt like I had more to bring to the table now. Like, I already knew what I had as far as, my experience, what I've known, what I've learned, what I can do. I knew that, but I felt like for certain places, it doesn't matter. When they're looking down at your resume, they're seeing your credentials first. Yeah. They want to see what your education has been. And then from there, we'll go and have a conversation and see what you have to offer. And I felt like that right there, having that master's made all the difference in the world for me, especially when I was looking for work. And even just getting licensed, that also made a difference for the type of work that I was looking for.
Yeah, no, I can appreciate that. And I think, it's one of those things that, having obviously you got to bring things to the table, but having the degrees in the wall, getting you through doors, it's a huge helpful process. What was the experience like at Hunter at the Silverman School of Social Work? What was the experience like? What did you enjoy and maybe not enjoy during that time?
Mm-hmm. So the School of Social Work is in Harlem. It's on the east side. It's on 3rd Avenue and 119th Street. So, at that point, I was working right on 125th Street. So my commute wasn't that far to get there since I was going there after work. It was a very nice building. It was relatively new because the school used to be further into Midtown. So it was a great experience. Met a lot of different people. Old, young, older, younger, in between. Like there was all ranges and all colors. And but like one of the things that we noticed as like the students that were there, because I was working, most of my classes were at night. So my experience was working with everyone that was also working. So everyone that was in school at night had a day job. And everyone that was in school during the day was there full time. And you can tell the difference. You can tell the skin color difference. You can tell that was something that was definitely discussed and brought up in amongst, the students. It was brought to the attention of the staff, but you can tell the difference. So the school was definitely whiter during the day and it got darker as it got later.
Wow.
Yeah.
How did that impact you?
It didn't really. I was focused on what I was focused. I went there. For me, it was just like, I'm here to learn and this is what I'm coming to do. And I just focused on that. But it was brought up in conversation in class. And it also, because it was brought up by other people who had noticed. And the reason that other people had noticed was because they had gotten some kind of time off and were able to take, like, let's say a day class. They were able to do an 11 a.m. class as opposed to a 7 p.m. one. So they were able to bring that information back. So the rest of us, so hearing them discuss it, like, it brought about, movement. It brought about like conversation. It brought about how do we present this? Who do we talk to? And there was a lot of mobilizing in that school. In the School of Social Workers, people that, are working towards their social work degrees, there's always going to be some kind of organization, mobilization, and conversation.
So they're living, practicing what they're preaching, so to speak. That's good. So, yeah. I think it's particularly powerful in this moment, where we're talking about economic inequality, but also, you have the huge conversation about white privilege and all the pieces that go along with that. Mm-hmm. And education is one of those places where segregation and the economics of slavery and just institutional racism is just super evident, right? I mean, and I hear it in conversation after conversation. We were one of the few Black folks, one of the few brown folks, one of the few mm-hmm. Folks on campus, and just it's just a part of the fabric of our country, unfortunately. And there's no easy or quick solution to it. I'd love to get your take on what I know. We're doing a small part of the battle with SBI, mm-hmm. but right. I'd love to get your take on like how we fix it, as a state, as a country.
Mm-hmm. You know what? For me, I just believe that all of this, it takes a lot of little efforts. It's not, just one effort. Like we're doing what we can in our part with SBI. And I think that that's exactly it. That's exactly where it needs to be, where it needs to start. Like we need to start, like, everyone is always talking about the young folks and the young folks, and the young folks are mobilizing. The young folks are speaking up, and they're saying, what's affecting and what's bothering them. But there's also this younger generation that's coming out that needs support that they didn't have before. And they need guidance. A lot of it is guidance. They don't know how to navigate things. And that's part of it, educating everyone, educating all skin tones, because our white friends need to be educated about colored people's struggle. And, and they also need to understand what they can do, what their role in this is as well. And just small things and adding it up, because the thing is that it's a lot of damage. So there's a lot of work to be done. And it just, if we get a whole bunch of like groups just doing their part, then, you know, it turns into something bigger. Obviously, there's the politics part of it. And you know what? People need to be involved in it. People that are passionate about politics, please be involved.
Yeah.
Go be involved in politics. Get yourself in the positions that you have to get to. You know, there are requirements. That's just the way that things are set up for us right now. There are certain credentials you need, certain levels of education, certain levels of service that you need to accomplish in order to get there. But do it. Like, if that's what your passion is, do it. If you want to make change on that scale, then get there, because we've gotten people of color in different higher positions. And it's great, you know, compared to before, we hadn't done that, but we need more. What we've had now hasn't been enough. We need more of that.
Yeah, I think it's sort of telling that, you know, you might ask freshmen in high school what they want to be when they grow up, and there might be a lot of people saying doctors and lawyers, and by the time they get to the end of their high school career, a lot of that changes, and it becomes like, you know, whether it's I want to be an entrepreneur, or I want to be in the financial industry. They're making, you know, money choices, right?
Right.
And then you got folks that want to be nurses. They want to be pediatricians. They want to be, you know, different things. But you don't hear too often somebody saying, "Oh, I want to be a politician. I want to be,
Mhm.
you know, a governor. I want to be a mayor. I want to be," and we definitely need
Right.
more of that. We definitely need more education within high school, and I think it's something that, um, you know, that political advocacy is so important. It's really interesting to see what's going on in Minneapolis right now. It's certainly causing some interesting conversations on my Facebook, because they're talking about defunding the police department, and just, you know, getting your head around something like that, you know, for folks that are in healthcare, you know, if they just started, you know, suddenly, you know, talking about defunding state hospitals, I think it would be the same sort of conversation. Like, you know, we don't have enough resources as it is, and you're talking about, you know, but, you know, understanding what the alternatives are, community-based medicine, uh,
Mhm.
you know, bringing more resources that maybe you're pumping into buildings and elective surgeries into actual education and practices in smaller communities. You know, what's the better use case for dollars and cents at the end of the day? So, you know, it would be interesting if we had more of that type of education in high school, where, you
Yeah.
know, younger students, and then, you know, that evolves into higher education, where they're having conversations about, you know, I mean, sort of silly, and not to get too off track, but, you know, is a stoplight, you know, at the end of the road, the best way to control traffic, or is it a roundabout, right? So you go to London, right, where you recently were. I think they have more roundabouts than we do here, you know, even in the city, because science and studies have shown that people slow down when you go around a roundabout versus stopping at a light, and then you have less traffic stops and less traffic infringements, right? And
Right.
you could point out examples in healthcare where, you know, we're focusing all this attention on a problem that doesn't necessarily need to exist, because of the way that um, we've built the infrastructure, and that sort of, you know, feeds into that conversation around institutional racism. We've built these institutions, so you know, and everybody's talking about reform and making it better, but at some point, you know, the fabric of it, the very structure of it, you know, you just gotta, you know, it's a hard thing to think about, but, you know, maybe that building shouldn't be there anymore, because it's just too soaked in the thinking of the past. Anyways, that's a a long talk, but I think it's all interesting stuff for what we're dealing with right now. And when you talk about education and what we're involved with
Mhm.
SBI, it's like, you know, different ways of thinking about public education, and all the things that go into that.
Right.
Because there's so many politics inside of a building, and unions, and administration, and Department of Education, and, you know, all these conflicting, not necessarily working together to provide what is the goal, which is education for a young man or woman coming up in the system.
Yep.
So tell us about, post, graduate studies. What did that lead into, and what you're doing now again?
Yeah, so postgraduate studies led me right into cancer care. I was done with my job in June. I had graduated in May of 2018, and I was done with that job in June of 2018 and started a cancer care in July of 2018. So I've been there since. And my goal after, finishing school and getting my license was that I wanted to help people. I wanted to be in the counseling realm. I didn't go straight into like psychotherapy, so I went into counseling, which is why I'm in cancer care, and then just the oncology field. I had throughout my young life, right? Throughout my young life, I dealt with a lot of cancer experiences within my family. Some survived, some didn't. And I just felt like the support or lack thereof that we received was a driving force for me to get into this field. Like, this is where I wanted to be, because the ones that did provide support for us, I wanted to give back. And for the ones that didn't give support, I wanted to correct that.
Yeah.
So, that was definitely my driving force into getting into this, specific realm of oncology social work.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
So what's going on? What's going on now? What are you finding that's rewarding now? What are you finding that's frustrating?
So, just, what's rewarding is being able to talk to people. Again, I love hearing about people's stories. Everyone has a story. Some stories resonate more than others. So I love hearing about people's stories, but I also like being that kind of like calm and grounding force for them, which is what a lot of them would say whenever they talk to any of the social workers. It's just that's like that home base that they can come to, and they can talk about whatever it is they're thinking, they're feeling, that they can't really discuss with their family members without there being some kind of emotional attachment to it, or some also emotional disconnect or misunderstanding, because there are a lot of these people that I work with are in a very high anxiety mode when they're talking to us. They don't know what to expect. They don't know what's next. They're scared, and just to be that for someone is rewarding within itself. And then, some of the challenges I would say are having to try to help people that are not willing to accept the help, that they're kind of they want to do what they want to do. And at which point, you have to be wise enough to say, okay, if that's what you want to do, then that's what you want to do. My job is not to tell you what to do. My job is to help you navigate and decide what it is that you want to do. And that's it. Well, as long as you're not putting yourself in harm's way, or someone else is not in harm's way, then, by all means.
Yeah.
And then I would say that another challenging thing about this job will be loss, losing people that you had some kind of relationship with, that you formed some kind of bond with. That's part of it.
How do you deal with that? Because I could imagine, it's got to be heartbreaking. Sometimes almost on a daily basis, especially if you have relationships with a lot of your patients, and you're dealing with cancer.
Right. So a lot of the things that we preach is, self-care for everyone, just doing something to distract yourself. And for me, before the pandemic, my self-care was always going out. Like, we were going out doing some kind of activity, hanging out with some kind of family member, not discussing any illnesses, not discussing cancer, not discussing any type of death, none of that.
Yeah.
We were just, enjoying living in the moment. And it's also made me very appreciative of the small things. So like just taking a walk and just, enjoying the air, seeing in the springtime when the flowers bloom, exercising, just spending quality time with my friends, laughter, like that has been the biggest thing. And then like for some situations where it's really difficult, then there's also the time that I have like with my supervisor that I can sit and talk about it. And I can tell her, well, this one really got to me. And then we can do something to honor that person's life. I can do some kind of ritual. Like, there's always something that we can like figure out that would be meaningful in order to kind of just sit with it, accept the fact that it's happened, and then just let it be.
I think that's amazing that there's care for you inside of that, because I couldn't imagine a situation where you're dealing with that much just drama and sadness on a daily basis and not have some professional outlet to take care of that. So it's really good to hear. Why don't you talk about, again, just going back to what you wanted people to take away from the day. I know you talked about taking, advantage of the opportunities and then being involved in possible. So maybe just going back to that. And if you can follow that up with, how people should best get in contact with you if they're interested in healthcare opportunities or learning more about, what you do or how they can get involved in the profession.
Yep.
And then I don't know if there's opportunities that you're looking for out there, if you want to just put that out there so that fellow alumni that are hearing it may be able to help you.
Yeah, absolutely. So just going back to the beginning, as far as, taking as many opportunities as you can and just taking advantage of them, be as involved as possible. I want to bring it back to remember that, when I was in Randolph, I tried different things. I participated in different things when I was in high school. I feel like that's the best time for you to be involved in as many things that are crazy, that don't have to do with anything, that are not like tied into each other. Like, I did sports, I did the drama club, I did band. I did the theater, I did, the staging, I did the lights, I did career prep, I did AP classes, languages, I did all of that. I did architecture classes and, on City College. None of those are really tied together. They don't go with each other. They don't coincide with some kind of career path. All of it while I was studying engineering in high school. But I just got my feet into whatever I could, get them wet, see if I like it, see what I don't like, and have that experience. And it just helps you be like, a well-roundabout person, have experience about different things, gives you things to talk about, conversations that you can join into, and just take advantage of the experiences, whatever was there. SBI helped me a whole lot as far as getting experience, talking to people, having conversations, telling them about what the school was like, what the program was like, learning, understanding, what to put in a resume, what your cover letter should do, how you should dress for an interview, how much is too much jewelry, like the small things. So it's just getting involved in all of that. And then as far as people reaching out to me, I am more than happy to talk to you about my experience as far as, being in Randolph, being now a social worker, working in the oncology field, or just being a social worker, period, having its challenges. If any of my alumni as well are also social workers and you ever need like a network or someone to talk to, someone to rely on, supporting each other is very important. And just feel free to reach out to me. The best way would be through my Facebook. Which my name on Facebook is Leeann Medina-Martinez. Send me a message, we can talk. And then as far as for everyone else, all the alumni that are out there watching this, I want to connect with other social workers. I want to connect with other people in the healthcare industry, like how we can work together as far as helping people, because there's a lot that still needs to be addressed. And unfortunately, our programs are also the ones that are getting the budget cuts. When it comes to time for money, health and mental health are the first ones on the list for things to be cut off as part, as well as other, school programs too. So definitely let's, link up, have that conversation. And then I also just want, alumni to know that whether you had a great experience at Randolph or if you didn't have a great experience at Randolph, but you are believing, in the cause and what's going on outside in the world today, and all, the oppression that we've all kind of had to encounter and deal with, helping, going back, helping the students that are there now, like there's still kids there. The generations need that. The ones that are coming up, they need that support. They need to learn the things that we learned. They need to be able to be prepared and ready to, enter the real world. And a lot of them already having real world experiences, and they're also going to need that support from all of us, and just helping, whether you're able to help, hands-on or monetarily, that also helps. And I think that that's a conversation that we should also be having, how we can give back to the generations that are coming up, to the ones that are going to take care of us.
I love that. Thank you. I know that we've had a few nurses, so I'll make sure that I connect you. I want to not make a mistake, but I know Jasmine Matos, is class of 2012. She's at Presbyterian. I know Gio's wife is at Presbyterian as well, which you know Gio, right?
Yeah.
So definitely good people to connect with. And then I'll try to look for the other ones. But we have a few people that have already interviewed, and I know there's many more that are in the healthcare field that we'll definitely try to get everybody to connect with. And hopefully, as we march forward here, we'll get some classes reunited, and we'll get more opportunities to connect with each other. Thank you so much for doing this, Leanne.
Yeah, absolutely.
I know you're not the most extroverted person, for doing all this stuff. So I appreciate you coming out and getting into the publicity role for me. I appreciate that. Do me a favor and say goodbye to everybody. And I look forward to connecting you with a lot of Silva alumni.
Thank you again for having me. And I thank everyone that's watching this. And I hope that you guys have a great one. And if you need me, reach out to me.
Thank you. All right, hold on for a second, Leanne.